Hello everybody, Michael here, glad to be filming for YouTube. I've been working on this Diana 75 for a while. Oh, and I'm also this is going to be short, and in just a couple of minutes I'm going to be through talking about this, and I'm going to talk about my lathe for somebody else. So it'll all be on this one video, but I want to start out with this. It's Diana Model 75. Just had a few things that I wanted to mention. I've been sanding and staining, oiling almost every day here for the last week or so, and I thought I was done, except I'm concerned that the color may still be too light. It's kind of difficult to see. Well, let me tilt the camera up a little bit. Try to get this away. I kind of like the two-tone look, but I kind of think it's too light. And I see sanding scratches that I thought, if you watched my other videos on oil finishing, you'll know that when you sand the wood raw, it looks perfect. You think you're done. And you put a few coats of oil on it, do some finish sanding, and all of a sudden, giant sanding scratches you never saw before show up. Take care of those. It looks perfect. A few more coats of oil, some fine sanding because you think you're done, or done sanding, and then giant sanding scratches that you didn't see. And it progresses that way all the way through finishing. Now we're not going to be able to do such a perfect finish on this because the wood has to be stained. So once it's stained, there's no more sanding. It's done, except that if you see that you need to sand more, then basically you're starting over again. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. And I see some giant sanding scratches here. I really thought I was all finished. Ready for half a dozen coats of oil and call it good, but I'm not. This needs to be taken care of. Because even though I can't finish this the way I normally finish stocks, I want this to really pop. Let me run through a few things that I've done. So where I'm at right now is a coat of oil sanded, another coat of oil sanded, and then the stain, walnut stain. And I just think I can probably do it with less oil and get better penetration of the stain, because this is pretty light. And I kind of think while I like the two-tone look, and the wood is a lot darker than it was unstained, a lot darker. Traditionally I have turned down white wood work because of the challenge of staining and finishing and get a good finish with that. They do it at the factory, that's one thing. Mass production, they all come out the same, they got a system down. But to do a restoration and try to match that look is really challenging. I usually turn it down. I thought this one was walnut. I think it is some kind of walnut. The grain looks walnut-like, although it has no figure at all. There's no wrinkled wood look, there's no hint of any figure or interesting color. Which I've never seen a piece of walnut. The plainest, cheapest piece of walnut has some interesting thing to it somewhere. A little bit of figure, a little bit of color, something. So I don't know what this is. Maybe it's sycamore, which a lot of American companies have used over the years, like Benjamin. Well, in any case, I'm going to sand it down again because I see standing scratches, and I'm going to sand it down far enough to get through the oil that I put on it. And I think I'm going to try a staining operation without any oil and get better penetration and hopefully end up with something that's a little bit darker. I was really hoping on this video that I would be telling Mr. Client that I'm 3 coats of oil away from putting it in a box, but I'm going to keep working on this for a little bit because I'm not happy and I don't think he'd be happy. But we are going to make something that looks nice out of this. I sanded through a little bit of the stippling here, right here. And it didn't seem like such a big deal until I started oiling and staining, and well, it was a big deal. So very difficult to replace exactly this look of the stippling. This might have been sandblasted, is almost how it looks. I don't know how they did it. It's very fine. Almost seems to show the grain pattern, which would suggest it was sandblasted. Well, what I did, it doesn't perfectly match the rest of the stippling, but what I wanted to do is the way it was, is it would have stood out. The eye would have been drawn to that. I think. My eye was. I don't know, at the shooting range in a competition, is anybody going to look at your gun that close? No, but it's the pride of ownership. So I redid the stippling here as best I could. Doesn't perfectly match, but at least now it kind of blends this in a little bit, roughened up this surface a little bit so that the eye isn't drawn to this as like another finished thing when there's this line here. So how I did this, I tried several different tools. So I just used a screw, and I ground the tip off of it a little bit and rounded it slightly. I tried a nail. You know, nails are very common tools for this, and a number 1 Phillips screwdriver point. That can also make a nice looking dents, but I like the look of this best for this application, so that's what I did. And how you do this, and you can also make a tool with several nails in it, or just use one, but you hold it in 2 fingers and put it on the wood, and then hold it up off of the wood a little bit, so we got a little bit of gap. And then you go along and just tap with a hammer while you slowly move your hand. I'm on this carpet, blanket, so it's not as firm as it could be if I was on a workbench. But you just go along drawing and doing this. This is a soft piece of Doug fir here, so it's a little sticky, but I don't know if you can see here next to that drilled hole. There, it's just starting to look like stippling. So that's what I did there, to just break up that edge a little bit where it had got sanded. So I don't know if you have seen the filled repair. It looks great. If I can get the stain to come out darker, this will almost disappear visually. Let's see. Oh, the factory stippling had lots of deans and bare wood showing through, so I stained that while I was staining this part, and that totally fixed that up. The stippling part looks fantastic, and it had lots of little dings and issues, so super happy about that. This is the, not pad, but wood, recoil wood, not a pad. This appears to be real walnut. Look how much darker that is. It's just beautiful. So this, the wood the rest of the stock was made out of, though, I think is something different. Look at that, just so light. So going to sand it all down, going to get it right back down to bare wood. And how I'm going to do it, this is going to be painstaking, but I'm going to use 320 because I don't want to add any sanding scratches that I won't be able to see by using coarser grits and working my way through the grits like you would normally do. So I'll just take a half hour, an hour, whatever it takes, and half a dozen sheets of 320, and I'm going to get down to bare wood again, right through all the oil that I've done, and hope that this time all the sanding scratches are gone when I oil it. And this time I think I'm going to forego any oil at all. I did it so that I could hopefully see the sanding scratches. I didn't want to add too much oil so the stain would take. Frankly, I don't have a lot of experience staining because I mainly work with dark walnut, which doesn't need to be stained. But we're going to get a good result. Please just be patient with me a little longer. I'm working on it. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera off and I'm going to jump over to the lathe for somebody else. Okay, here I am at the lathe. I'm hand holding the camera because I want to take you around the back side of the lathe and show you a few details about my digital readout installation. But this is a Logan 920. Let me walk around over here. Got a fairly cramped shop, so my space there is a little tight. You can see the bandsaw there on the right that I had to skinny around. Has a quick change gearbox, you can see on the left there, and a quick change tool post there at the top. I guess they call it the wedge type. You turn the handle, and it clamps onto it. One trick I use for taking chucks on and off is I use a piece of PVC pipe through there, unscrew the chuck, it comes off on the pipe, and it makes it a lot easier because even though these, a strong guy, they're not that heavy, but they're heavy enough that when you're unscrewing it, you can't tell when the last thread is, and all of a sudden you got 20 pounds in your hand where before there was nothing. And I just don't know how you can hold that without banging your knuckles, you know, if you're supporting it. If people put a piece of wood under here, or let it bang on the wood, piece of pipe makes it so easy. And I wish I could say that I thought of that myself, but it's the beautiful thing about the internet. We get to learn things from other people. We just can't think of everything ourselves, right? I put a 2 by, I don't know what that is, 6 maybe, 2 by 10 across the legs. Makes a convenient shelf. So I've got another 3-jaw chuck down there, a 4-jaw chuck which I just used yesterday making some parts, some plates for different tools. Here, let me pull this out. This is pretty cool. This is my my study rest. I made this. It was from some mystery larger lathe, and so I cut the base short, turned it upside down in the milling machine, milled it flat, and then welded the base part of it back on again at the right height, and made these fingers with ball bearings in it. It's fantastic, works great, and yes, welding the cast iron was a trick. I bought several different welding rods that are advertised as doing well with cast iron, and one of them worked. And here, let me just set this down real quick. I want to show you the ball turner. So this is an inexpensive ball turner from India on eBay. I don't know, maybe they're 60 or 70 bucks. Custom made screw for mounting it to the cross slide. This dual tool post slide, I think this is from a larger Logan lathe. I don't know, it could be wrong. It could be for this one. But it was pretty convenient to attach the ball turner to. All right, let me set you down and put that away. We're going to get to the digital readouts here in a minute. I got most of the parts of a taper jig, or taper, yeah, jig I think they call it. It goes on the back side of the lathe, but I'm missing about $800 worth of it, but you can see I've got some pieces here. Oh, I made this drawbar. Here, this is just a piece of drawbar material. Ooh, say that 3 times fast. Off of eBay, cut it down to length, and made myself a knurled handle for it. This goes, as you know, through the spindle, like that. Put a set screw on there so I can adjust the length, but I've never had to set it right to begin with, and it just works. Alright, so that's that. Digital readouts. So up there I've got the readers, and these are the inexpensive, eye gauging is the brand on these, but they come in several flavors. I've got 3 of them here on the milling machine, which here real quick. There's one of the read heads. There's the Z-axis, and it's just stuck on here. Excuse me, stuck on here with neodymiums, and stuck on here with neodymiums for the reader, and the scale. So the bottom one is the scale. That holds the scale, and then I made a bracket here. Oh, it's actually not neodymium. I see I bolted that on. This bracket to hold the read head. So the scale is neodymiums. That's bolted. And then over here I just made a couple of brackets for that. And then on this side we've got, oh, the camera tripod's in the way, hold on. Here, and this is the read head, oh, under that bracket right there. And again, neodymiums hold the scale here. So now let's jump over to the lathe, and I've got, this was a caliper, and I cut the jaws off. Oops, sorry. And I made this clamp here, clamps onto the quill. Or is this a quill and a tailstock? I know it is in a milling machine. And the reader is stuck on there with a neodymium. This works great. Lets me measure how deep I'm drilling, or similar operations. Over here I got a micrometer stop. I made this by getting a large micrometer and cutting the anvil off of it, and then making this clamp assembly. And the anvil is bolted to the bottom of it. No, it's not. This bolt goes all the way through everything. It's threaded into the anvil, I think. Yep, there's no nut under there. So, okay, that's one of the readouts. Now these two that I have mounted up here, the cross slide, so I got it screwed on here. So the back of the cross slide where the factory gave me a 1/4-20 hole. So the scale is attached to that. And I just band clamped the reed head with a wood spacer to an aluminum bar. That aluminum bar, let me get around the back side of the lathe here, is bolted to a piece of angle iron, and that angle iron is neodymiumed, just coined a term I guess, to the apron. You can see one of the neodymiums right there, so that sticks that on there. Having the neodymiums here is so handy because when I need to change out the cross slide, all I got to do is take out one screw and pop those magnets off. Easy peasy. And then the last readout, let me stay on the back side of the lathe. So it's this really long bar for the long dimension, and this end floats. It just floats. Nothing wrong with that, I don't think. The reed head is screwed to a piece of metal plate that's neodymium to the back of the apron. And then at this end, I made a clamp. And the reed head is screwed to those stack of aluminum blocks there. So, pretty easily done. I did not want to drill and tap any holes into my lathe. Not that I'm opposed to doing that. If a job requires it, I'm going to use the tool however I need to. But I like to avoid doing that if at all possible. And using the neodymium magnets, one, meant I didn't have to drill and tap my machine, and two, makes removal super easy. And yeah, they don't move around. It's I still have, I have really good accuracy. Yeah, I check them if I want to do something that's super accurate. Oh, that would be everything. I make sure things are secure and tight, and keep an eye on things, but I can't recall I've ever had an issue. It just works. Also, I'm using a gator belt. Let's see, here's some more of them up here, but I don't think I have up there. I don't think I have the package, but on my website I did record what it was. But I know it's a gator belt. I think that's by Goodyear. It's just a timing belt. And I did a scarf and glue. So scarfed the belt into a taper and glued it with this Loctite plastics bonding system. It's got a primer and the glue. I notice just today that it's starting to come loose a little bit. So I think I'm going to see if I can glue that back down again and if it'll stay. But I think I've got maybe almost 10 years on this. Maybe 8. Somewhere in that range. And I use my lathe a great deal. And I really lean on it. I make it work. And so I would say that's a good method. It works and it runs quiet, unlike the old clipper belt. It goes click, 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 click. These are nice and quiet. Anything else to tell? I do not run it with grease in the gears, with the idea that grease holds chips. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Maybe it takes a little more work doing it with oil, but what I used is a goldenrod pump oiler. And let's see, where is it? Oh, the label's gone. Back of the labels works. Here we go. Anti-wear ISO 32 hydraulic fluid. so I use that. I just squirt it in the gear train. I just pop open the door a little bit, squirt some in there, runs nice and quiet. And I do it for your quick change gearbox also. I just squirt up in there. Squirt up in there and get all those gears nice and wet. And then I put a magnetic parts container down underneath this leg because oil likes to collect underneath this base and drip down, I guess, through the bolt holes. I don't know if I've really looked into it too carefully, but it runs down the leg and drips right into my little container there instead of the shop floor. Well, it's hardly a trick. I guess anybody would figure that out if they had a leak, right? Alright, well, that's what I wanted to show you about my digital readouts. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for your patience, my Gunstock customers. This one, I'm working on touching up the carving. So that's kind of a little delicate operation, but it's coming along. And that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your patience for my clients, and I appreciate everybody that watches my channel and comments and subscribes and shares and all those things we're supposed to do to help people we like do well on YouTube. Thanks a lot, everybody. I am going to have to make a change on my channel. When I started it, I didn't understand how to properly set up a YouTube channel, and I need to change it into, I forget their terminology, but like a business channel so that I can have a custom URL. So the bummer to that is I'll lose all the comments that have been made. But I don't have a lot. But keep that in mind. If you're going to say something, I'll see it, but it'll probably go away here shortly. Okay, that's it. Bye.